Let me ask you something before we get into this. Have you ever been told, in order to build muscle, that you need to be in a calorie surplus? That you need to eat big in order to get big? That if you're not gaining weight on the scale, you're not actually building muscle? If you spend any time in fitness circles, the answer is almost certainly yes. It's one of the most repeated rules in the entire industry. And for a 20-year-old guy with low body fat, high testosterone and no training history, it's broadly accurate. But you're not 22, and the rule doesn't apply to you in the same way. In fact, for a large percentage of men over 35, blindly following it is one of the main reasons why you're spinning your wheels all year. So I've been in the fitness industry for over 17 years. I've coached thousands of men, and in my time I've started off as a very skinny individual. I spent the majority of my career doing bodybuilding, doing bulks, doing cuts. I got in huge condition at one point, nearly 100 kg, and that was when I had more time. I could train twice a day. I had very little responsibilities, right? And my metabolism was probably through the roof. And now I'm 37 years old, I've got a child, got businesses, more stress than ever, less sleep, and I haven't done a bulk to gain muscle for as long as I can remember. I just maintain and even grow within my current physique. And the surplus myth has probably cost more men their results than any other piece of advice. So in this video, I'm going to break down exactly why it exists, why it doesn't apply the way we think it does, and what you should actually be doing instead. Where the rule came from. The eat big principle has the roots from competitive bodybuilding, right? Specifically in an era of bodybuilding where the goal was maximum mass at any cost. Look at your Arnold days, right? Your winter bulk, your summer cut, eat everything in sight for 6 months, then diet aggressively for 3 months before a show. That model exists for one reason. When you're trying to maximize the absolute ceiling of muscle mass, a surplus provides the raw energy and anabolic environment to push beyond what maintenance allows. Every calorie is available for protein synthesis. You recover faster, training volume can be higher. In theory, it does make sense. In practice, for a natural man over 35 living real life, it creates a major problem, right? You don't just gain muscle in a surplus, you gain fat. And the larger the surplus, the more fat accompanies the muscle. For a young man with a fast metabolism and high testosterone, the ratio is manageable. For a man who's in his late 30s or 40s, particularly one already carrying some sort of body fat, the ratio gets ugly fast. I've seen it hundreds of times. Man decides to bulk, eats a 500 calorie surplus for 4 months, gains 8 kg, 2 kg, which is muscle, and 6 kg, which is fat. Now he has to spend the next 3 months trying to lose that body fat. Net result, after 7 months, is marginal muscle gain for a lot of frustration and a body composition that got a hell of a lot worse before it actually got better. There's a way better way to do this. What the research actually shows: body recomposition. The simultaneous loss of fat and the gain of muscle was long considered impossible by mainstream sports science. The textbook position was that you needed a surplus for muscle gain and a deficit for fat loss, and you couldn't do both at once. That position has been significantly revised. Multiple well-controlled studies now show that body recomposition is not only possible, but it is the actual default outcome for specific populations. And one of those populations is men over 35 with training experience and moderate amount of body fat to actually lose. Here's the mechanism. When you're in a slight calorie deficit or at maintenance, your body can use stored body fat as the energy source for muscle protein synthesis, essentially fueling muscle growth from your own fat stores. This process is called fat oxidation driven muscle building. And while it's not as fast as surplus driven muscle gain, for men who don't have the luxury of getting fatter before getting leaner, it is far more practical and sustainable. The key variables that make this work are protein intake, training quality, and sleep, not a calorie surplus. Who this specifically applies to: not everyone responds to this equally, so I want to be honest about that. But if you are genuinely lean, so sub 12% body fat, and you have years of training history, you will likely need some sort of surplus to continue adding meaningful muscle mass. Your body has limited fat stores to draw on for fuel, and your anabolic environment is probably already optimized. A modest surplus of 200 to 300 calories makes sense in that context, but that is not the majority of men over 35 who will come to me for coaching. The men I work with most commonly are carrying somewhere between 18 to 28% body fat. They have a training history, but it's not been consistent due to life variables. They're not beginners, but they're not advanced either. And they have enough stored energy on their body that a surplus is genuinely unnecessary for muscle growth. For most men watching this, the goal of getting leaner and building muscle at the same time is not only achievable, it is the most efficient path forward for you. You are not choosing between the two goals. You are achieving both simultaneously. Now, what the actual approach looks like. 3 things that drive this. Get these right and the surplus question becomes irrelevant. Number 1, protein. This is a non-negotiable, and it's where most men fall short. To build muscle while in a calorie deficit or at maintenance, you need to be eating enough protein to provide the raw material for muscle protein synthesis, even when your total calories are lower. The target is between 0.7 and 1 gram per pound of body weight per day. For a 200-pound man, that's 140 to 200 grams of protein daily. And that number probably sounds a lot higher than what you're currently eating. And that's the problem. Number 2, training stimulus. You cannot recomp without progressive overload. The muscle growth signal has to come from somewhere, and without a calorie surplus, the training stimulus becomes even more critical. You need to be lifting with genuine intent. Progressive overload every week or every 2 weeks. Getting close to failure on your working sets if possible. If your training is comfortable, it's not creating the signal needed for this to work. Number 3, patience and consistency. Recomposition is slower than a bulk and a cut cycle. The scale may not move for weeks. The mirror will change before those numbers do. Most men abandon this approach because they're looking for the wrong feedback, like off a scale, right? The weight on a scale is a poor indication of body recomposition progress. How your clothes fit, or how you look in the mirror, or even how you perform in the gym are far better ways of measuring this process. Now, the mindset shift. Here's the thing nobody tells you about eating in a surplus after the age of 35. Most men who do it don't actually enjoy the process, firstly. They eat past fullness, feeling sluggish, carry more body fat than they're comfortable with, and they spend months of dieting it off. Like, it's not a fun process. The mental cost you're going to go through of a long bulk when you're already not happy with how you look is significant, okay? And for men with high standards in other areas of life, with your business, your family, performance, and you like to look good, being out of shape for 6 months or waiting for the bulk to pay off is not a trade-off that I'd want to make. Recomposition removes that compromise entirely. You eat at maintenance or at a modest deficit. You train hard, you eat plenty of protein, you look better every single month, and you build muscle in the process. And it's not as dramatic as a classic transformation, but it's the approach that fits the life of a high-performing man who's over 35 who wants to look good all year round, not just for 12 weeks at a time. And I am literal evidence of this. I stay in shape all year with this approach, and I'm 37 years old. Dare I say it, coming on to 40, and I'm in the best shape physically of my life, so I feel. So here's your takeaway. If you're over 35, carrying some body fat and training consistently, stop chasing the surplus. It's not the tool for your situation. Your surplus is already on your body, so use it. Hit your protein target every single day, lift with progressive overload 3 to 4 times a week, sleep 7 to 9 hours if you can. I can't, I've got a kid. Stay in a modest calorie deficit or a maintenance, and give yourself a good time period, 90 to 120 days, and just judge the results, track the data. You will be leaner, more muscular at the end of that time period than you would if you did a traditional bulk and cut cycle. I've seen it enough times to say that with confidence. So if you want to see more videos like this, please comment below. I'd love to get back to all your questions. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.